If everyone can please take their seats. So thank you all for joining us. I hope you're suitably refreshed after the tea, coffee and networking break, although I can guarantee you after this session you'll still be thirsty. So for a number of years, the automotive industry, supply chain and logistics operations have been viewed as some of the best in the world, the pinnacle of supply chain and logistic operations. But over the last few years, it's become apparent that it's increasingly valuable and useful to look outside the industry to see what we can learn from non-automotive companies. There's a great deal to be had and learned from other sectors, implementing new technologies and redefining best practices. So we're delighted we've got a special guest here today, Adriano Negrero, the Logistics Vice President of Anheuser-Busch InBev, the Middle America Zone, here to share some insights and share the complexities of the most important supply chain in the world, the one that serves us beer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Buenas tardes a todos. Yo soy Adriano.
Everyone, I'm Adriano Negrão. I'm the Vice President of Logistics of ABI for Middle Americas. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's actually a pleasure to be with you today. So I have a presentation here that is very short, but I try to bring a little bit of the challenges that we have in the logistics of Middle Americas in a very complex region with a lot of opportunity, and we are moving forward in this with some technology projects, with some improvements in our processes that I think would be worth sharing with you for those who are passionate about this topic, about logistics. And so I hope that in this 30-minute section I'll accomplish this. I'm the Vice President of Logistics. Just for a brief introduction of myself, I've been working for 20 years at ABI. I started in Brazil. I think that you can tell from my accent. And in Brazil, I was for most of my career in logistics operation. Then I went to New York. I stayed for 3 years in the global operation that we have, in the global headquarters that we have in New York. And I've been in Mexico for 2 years. I'm very proud of being here and being a part of what we call the main area of AB InBev in all the world. We are subdivided in 6 regions, and this is an extremely important region with an incredible growth for our company. Now we're going to talk a little bit about beer. These are 3 of our global brands. We see Budweiser, Stella, and we're very proud of having Corona, which is one of the most growing brands around the world and part of our portfolio. It's a Mexican company, and we're proud of that. We are the company with the dream of bringing people together for a better world. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of the implications of this in logistics and what it means to create a better world. And I think that in logistics, the industry that we see in this room also has a great opportunity ahead of themselves. And we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to bring people together to build a construction and to build a company and a better world. So to tell you a little bit more about our company, we are leading 8 of the 10 most valued brands of beer around the world. In this ranking, we have 3 beers of our region. For you to know, we have Corona that I told you about. We have Modelo, also from Mexico, and we have Águila from Colombia. So those are 3 among the 10 most important beer brands in the world, and 8 out of them are part of our portfolio. So just to make this a little bit more concrete, I'll tell you about what Middle Americas means to us, to ABI. We are 14 countries in Middle Americas, from Peru going through Ecuador, Colombia, all the way to Mexico, and including several Central American and Caribbean countries. We are organized in 5 BUs, or business units, um, which is the way we organize the region. We have over 50,000 people in our organization. We have 35 breweries, over 400 distribution centers, and those are our own centers that we are operating, from the inventory to the distribution out on the streets. We have 14 vertical plants, from the bottle manufacturing to the lids, the malt, and everything. Part of this operation is including more complexity in our logistics operation. We are selling about 130 MIOs a year, which is 25% of the volume of InBev around the world, and we're working with 45 brands of beer in this region. And I'm showing you some of what we call the local champions in region. We also have Victoria in Mexico. I invite you to taste Victoria, Modelo, and Corona, which are local brands in Mexico. But just to give you a little bit more context, I brought you a very brief clip to show you a little bit of what Middle Americas means and what logistics means in our region.
De llevar tu cerveza favorita a todos lados. En realidad es mucho más complejo que eso. Nuestra operación está conformada por 35 cervecerías y 403 centros de distribución en 14 países. Tenemos la operación vertical más grande del mundo, 9 operaciones de empaque y 3 operaciones especiales. En México se localizan 8 cervecerías, 6 en Colombia, 5 en Honduras y El Salvador, 6 en Centroamérica y el Caribe y 9 en Perú y Ecuador. Lo que verdaderamente nos enorgullece es reducir nuestro consumo de energía, suficiente para alimentar a cientos de miles de hogares en un año. Nuestra reducción de uso de agua equivale al consumo anual de millones de litros. En lo único que no ahorramos es en nuestro orgullo cervecero. La flota de camiones T1 y T2 recorre diariamente lo suficiente para darle más de 20 vueltas al mundo. Nuestros almacenes T1 y T2, 1622 montacargas almacenan las cervezas donde el equipo de ruteo se encarga de encontrar la manera más eficiente de entregar nuestras cervezas a 1.4 millones de clientes en todo Middle Americas. Al final nuestra operación parece compleja y gigantesca, pero para nuestros más de 33,000 colaboradores de logística es solo un pequeño sacrificio que hacemos para llenar al mundo de alegrías. Bienvenidos al inicio de una década de transformación.
Listo. Ahí, cuando miramos la
When we look at the complexity and the size of this operation, that always raises the question of how we handle such a complex operation. And this is always going to start from the leadership. Of course, I'm not alone. I have a team of 11 direct reports, plus a leadership team that is huge in our operation. I brought some of them with me just to take advantage of this opportunity to introduce you to them. Could you get on your feet just so they can see some of the people from procurement and people, some of the contributors to logistics? The message here is that we have a leadership team that is extremely strong, and we really believe that leadership in such an operation makes a huge difference. We're looking for people who act as owners with this owner attitude we want for entrepreneurs in our day-to-day operations. We think that makes a difference. Good people make a good difference, but excellent people make an excellent difference. So this is the starting point. This is where we start to build and to create logistics that is world-class, as we call it in our region. Now, the second item to handle such a complex operation is related to routine operations and the processes that we handle in our day-to-day operation. And I think it would be worth sharing with you two of the programs that we are leading in ABI, VPO and DPO, operational manuals that cover all the processes that we work with in the organization, DPO for breweries and VPO for distribution centers. So what do we have in DPO? All the processes of a brewery, from the brewing itself to packaging to quality to safety and all the way to logistics and the logistics processes in the brewery. And VPO, it's the same, but it's applied to distribution centers. So in this case, we have the operational manual of all the operations of a distribution center, and we want to comply in the routine, in the day-to-day operations, always touching base with the shop floor, which is the biggest challenge in this kind of processes, for the operation to actually work bottom up and complying with all the processes with discipline in our daily operations. So once again, we start with leadership. We believe that a strong leadership makes all the difference. And then we have processes and routines, which is something that we have been evolving for 5 years. It's not ready. It's not like that's it. We have different levels of maturity in different countries and in different operations, but this is something where we are investing a lot. And the third item I bring you is the digital element. The issue of digital transformation is almost a buzzword nowadays. Everyone has heard of us many times, digital transformation, and how this has changed our life and how this is changing the way we do business or the way we operate breweries or distribution centers or even distribution itself. And I brought you an example of what we're doing in our distribution. But before we go to that example, I want to challenge you on the way we're looking into digital, which is, I think, very good. We believe that digital transformation and technology is going to help us break some or bring down some of the paradigms that we have in the day-to-day of logistics operation. The first one I brought you that I would like to explore a little bit with you is the issue of standardization versus flexibility. We are leading a huge operation. In our case, we are in 14 countries. We have a daily distribution, which is not small, and there would be no way to handle such a big operation without defined processes and standardization routines. But we also need to look for flexibility. There is a demand in the market. Our customers are looking for more flexibility, and handling this in such a big operation would be impossible if it weren't for technology. So allow me to give you one example of how we are bringing down this paradigm. Nowadays, in our operation in the 14 countries together, we have around 6,000 distribution trucks on the streets every day. 6,000 trucks, just like this one, or very similar to this one, that go out on the streets to distribute our products. Those trucks have a driver and 1 or 2 helpers, 2 to 3 people in each truck. That's a population of almost 20,000 people distributing products every day. So we need, of course, some level of standardization in those processes. And this is where technology has been contributing significantly in the past. The same crew would leave the distribution center with a list on paper of the points of sale that they would visit to distribute products. There is a pre-sale on the prior day. This is how our process works, where the salesperson visits the points of sale. They get out of the points of sale with a list of products. They prepare the trucks with the merchandise, and the driver will leave on the next day with the list of what they are going to distribute to each and every one of the points of sale. And this list includes not only the products that are going to be distributed, but also the order on which they are providing them during the day. This is how we did it in the past. There wasn't standardization, but it was just static. It would be left on paper, and this is how we did it for a long time. But during the last years, we developed what we call the delivery app. So nowadays, we give the distributor, the driver, all the information that they require on their smartphone. And what is this app about? Well, this app is loaded on a smartphone, of course, which allows us to perform tracking. I'm not talking talking about the tracking of the truck, telemetry. We're talking about each of the products in each of the POSs where we are distributing during the day. And we added machine learning to the app, another buzzword that we hear all the time in technology topics, but I'll tell you a little bit more about this later. And this issue of tracking, well, this is a very simple tool. Their devices are all connected, and we have a status of all the deliveries throughout the day as they are delivered. This allows us not only to monitor the productivity of the crew, but also the services. We have the information online of what's been happening during the day with each of the clients. Each of our trucks, just for you to know, has an average of 40 deliveries per day. So that is a lot of customers that are visited by all the trucks, and this monitoring during the day is extremely important to us. And now, additional to that, I told you about machine learning. Well, this list that the driver would go out with in the past was just fixed. They would try to comply with the order of the clients that was done with the routing that was prepared the night before. But now with this app, we are implementing what we call dynamic resequencing. What will this mean? Well, it means that for every delivery done by the driver, the tool in the app will update the routing to tell them what the next POS to visit will be, what's the next delivery. And this is dynamic. It could change during the day. And why is it going to change? Well, it could change due to traffic issues. This is connected with Waze. We use Waze as a tool. It's going to depend on the time window. A client that has a prior time window needs an earlier delivery. So those variables are all connected to bring that to the driver. They are the front line of our operation, so we need to bring them the best operation for them to have flexibility during the day so as to not only optimize their time, but also improve the service and to arrive closer to the need of our clients. So this is the solution that we developed with Foxtrot, which is a company we work very closely with. They helped us with the tool. Of course, that there is an evolution. We're ramping up our implementation in the operation. There is an issue of training the crew and to let them know this technology and to allow them to trust technology. It's not simple because they are trained as drivers, and we have to bring down some barriers there as well. But we're evolving, and we believe once again that technology is bringing us this opportunity of breaking the paradigms that we could have in our operations. So this is an extremely good example, I believe, of this transformation. Another issue that is worth mentioning and bringing together with the dream of creating a better world that I mentioned at the start of my presentation, the main contribution of our logistics in this case is related to carbon emissions. I believe that you are also deeply connected and sometimes affected by this issue, and we are investing in our countries to start working and with electric trucks and to make them work. We have in Mexico this trial truck. We have this working in Mexico. It's a test drive truck. We are seeing all the issues of maintenance and consumption. It's a small truck. Our average in Mexico are 10, 12 tons in Mexico. This is a 6-ton truck. So we are evolving little by little, but we believe deeply in this solution. We have to build the solution for the future. In Colombia, we also have one, and in the case of Colombia, we already signed an agreement for another 200 electric trucks until 2021. So this is no small challenge, but we really believe in the opportunity and the contribution that we could bring on this issue of sustainability. Very well, and then we talked a little bit of transformation, a little bit about digital and the issue of sustainability. So I think it would be worth mentioning, since we were talking about logistics, to talk about safety. Safety to us is a value. This is no priority, this is no goal. Priorities might change and goals would change as well, but safety is a value to us. And in our region, we achieved an incredible evolution in the number of accidents in our operation. We reached 50% reduction in accidents where the person cannot go back to their work, what we call LTIs or long time injuries. This is the third or fourth consecutive year that we achieved this 50% reduction. Last year, 2019, the total reduction of our region was 50%. But unfortunately, we're still far from where we want to be. As a region, I told you we are 20-25% of ABI's volume, but we are half the accidents. We represent half the accidents in our operations, so the amount of risk is still very high. And why is that? Well, unfortunately, we are still at a level of maturity in our safety culture that is very low. That's the bare truth. And from experience and from what we have seen in almost all regions, all countries in our region, I don't know if you know this curve, DuPont curve, but it tells us a little bit of the amount of accidents, the number of accidents regarding or related to the safety culture, and they are grouped in 4 levels. We have a first level that would be the reactive level, where people instinctively would avoid accidents, and then we have an independent one where the leadership, the supervision, would present this topic of safety as essential to the operation. Then we see interdependent, where people know the risks and do not take them. They are aware of the risks of the operations. Independent to interdependent, where people are actually monitoring, they are monitoring each other. And from experience, I lived in New York, just to give you an example. And I remember I have 2 children, and one of them was not wearing a helmet on the skate, and people would tell us, "What are you doing? This is dangerous. Where is your helmet?" I didn't even know those people, and they were worried and concerned about the safety of my kids. This is a good example, I believe, of how people are concerned with each other. In our region, that I called zone, because this is Middle Americas, we perceive that most countries are between reactive and dependent. So that means that we still need our leadership in the operation, top down, to make this safety issue relevant and vibrant. This is not going to just flow top down. We have to push it down for it to become a value, to go from reactive to dependent. We're moving forward, yes, and this is the big issue we're working with in safety. How are we making that safety culture present in our day-to-day operations, and how are we going to achieve it? Well, we use this that we call the safety pyramid. What's at the top of the pyramid are LTIs, or long-time injuries, or lost-time injuries, where the person would not go back to their jobs. And what we prepared was this pyramid that will help us build our safety culture from the base of the pyramid. And what do we see at the base of the pyramid? Well, we see the reports of insecure or unsafe acts and conditions in our operations. So what's the challenge here? Well, we want to make the entire operation, not only the leaders, to report unsafe acts and conditions. This is the challenge that we have. We have been growing significantly in reports, and it's an incredible correlation. When you bring up the number of reports, when people are more connected with the issue of safety and the reduction that it will create in the number of accidents, it's an incredible correlation, and it happened everywhere where we are present in this region. So increasing reports and also fix the matter of unsafe conditions. So the consequences would be fixing these conditions, or to teach people not to go through these insecure actions, unsafe actions. But it's incredible just to look at the correlation between reports, having people connected, the plant floor, the operation floor, connected to safety, and the number of accidents that we have reduced in the last years. So we are dedicating a lot of energy and we're putting a lot of effort in this issue. Just to give you an example, this is a pyramid that every day in our entire operation we talk about with people. What were the acts, what were the conditions for accidents that only created a task shift or a medical treatment? What happened in our operation? This is something we go through every day with our drivers in a morning meeting to talk about the risks of the operation that we cannot run into, even the best practices in safety. This is a tool that has helped us significantly. But nevertheless, we believe that the safety issue is not going to just stem from processes or leadership. I started this presentation with the role of leadership and the routine in processes, but we believe that technology will, in this case as well, bring a lot in safety and is already helping a lot in safety. The first one, I think you know very well, this is telemetry, and we have been using telemetry significantly with the safety alerts. We have alerts of speeding up, of braking, of curves ahead, and we are applying the consequences in all the drivers with every alert that we have implemented to let them know that we are monitoring their behavior and there are consequences. So we need a very strong follow-up in telemetry. We plan on having 100% of our fleet covered in telemetry until the end of next year. This is an investment that we're working little by little. We have our fleet covered with telemetry, and this is a tool that has been very helpful to monitor what's happening out on the streets, because it's a lot harder to monitor out on the streets than in our storehouses and in our plants. So this is an area where technology has been very helpful. And we also use a driving simulator in some operations that is helping us train drivers. The issue of driver availability in our region is an issue. Mexico is a very hard example in this because we're suffering with the lack of availability of drivers for transportation from full and single trucks. But this is an area where we have been investing to have more availability with more knowledge. We have this in some operation, and it's been very helpful. The last example I brought you from technology in safety is the issue of the element of the Dashcam. We're working some tests in Mexico. We have over 20 trucks with Dashcam where we are monitoring what's happening with the crew during the day, if they are attentive, if they are using their phones, if they are wearing their seatbelts, and how their behavior is developing, the crew and the driver during the day, and how they behave with each other. This has a lot of potential in the solution to help us with monitoring them during the day. Now, once again, this wraps up a little of the message here. I think that we have a logistics operation that is simply huge in the Middle Americas region. We are evolving significantly in safety, and this is an extremely important message to us. This is a great value to us. We believe strongly in leadership and the processes and our routine operations in such a big operation, as I told you. And now, more recently, maybe the last 2 years, we've been moving forward significantly with digital transformation, which is what we believe will help us leap to another whole different level in costs, in operation control, and even in safety. So thank you very much once again. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for your time.
So much there. I think that was fascinating, certainly to see what journey the food and beverage industry is on, and see the approach that you're taking, whether it be to technology, leadership and safety, which is hugely important. We are fairly pushed for time, but I would like to open up to the floor. Any questions that we have? So yeah, please take these opportunities to ask away. Is there anything? Okay. Just down at the front.
¿Qué tal? Jacqueline Ramírez de HBPO.
Hola.
Ramirez from EGPO. You said that part of the success to be able to implement safety is to increase the report of unsafe acts. How did you do that? Well, we started bringing the topic to our daily routines with all our crews, and we started reporting unsafe acts per person. What happened in the past? There many unsafe acts had been reported by the leadership, and a year ago we started reporting the amount of acts per person, per individual. So we started telling other teams, each member needs to bring an act per month. That's how we started, and that person said there's no point on doing that. And we said, no, please pay attention because you will find unsafe acts. So we started requesting people to bring one unsafe act per month. Now you have to bring one unsafe act per week. And we even had people bringing unsafe acts every day. What were we looking for? To start all this safety culture touching all the floor, the drivers, the helpers, truck, forklift drivers, etc. And over time, they started doing that, and they started changing their behavior. And that's amazing. When you bring an unsafe act, we're not going to apply a consequence. It's not that you're not pointing fingers. This is an issue. Look what this person is doing. No, there are not going to be any consequences if a person was walking around or was walking at the warehouse without following the pedestrian route. And we have first to encourage people to bring unsafe acts. And that's when we started monitoring the amount of unsafe acts per person. In Mexico, for instance, we had 5,000 unsafe acts reported in 2018, and we were able to have 400,000 unsafe acts reported in 2019. A person that is not following the pedestrian route, that will be an unsafe act, for instance. A person not walking on the sidewalk, that's an unsafe act. We want people to be focused on safe acts, and we started encouraging people to bring unsafe acts because that's where awareness starts.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all we have time for, but I want to say thank you so much. So, yes, Let's put our hands together and say thank you for Adriano for sharing
you.
his insights, his wisdom.